This morning we're going to be joined by Howard Johnson Jr. of Howard Johnson Realty Limited. And we'll also have as a guest Rose Bennett Cooper, Chairman of the Rent Board. Good morning and welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Rose?
I'm most excellent, thank you.
Wonderful to have you on the program. Howard, how are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm just happy to be joined by the most excellent.
Ha! Ha! And so he begins.
Now, we have been telling our listeners what we want to be talking about today. As a tenant, of course, one must pay keen attention to not just the responsibilities of being a good tenant, but also the rights and protections afforded to that individual by law. So Howard and, of course, Rose Bennett Cooper, Chairman of the Rent Board, will now discuss this topic with us. First of all, Lady Rose, what protection does the Rent Act afford tenants?
Here's how I would answer the question. The primary purpose of this piece of legislation, the two key purposes to prevent ad hoc rent increases. So you're a tenant and you enter into an arrangement with your landlord and your understanding is that your rent is going to be $30,000 a month. The landlord, for whatever reason, said, boy, I need more money, so here what, the rent is going to go up by 15%. The Rent Act prevents this kind of activity by the landlord and regulates how and when rent may be increased and percentage by which it can be increased. And the other primary purpose of this act is to control and prevent how you can evict your tenants. So, similar situation, you rent a place as landlord and the tenant is there. And it could be that the tenant is a bad tenant and you really need to get this person out of your place. And what the law does is to prevent you from just getting up on a Monday morning and saying, here what, I'm done with you, so you need to pack and leave by tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And this kind of protection is provided for both the good tenant and the bad tenant. And some landlords will scream and cuss and say, yeah, but that's not fair. This act is skewed towards protecting the tenants more than it protects the landlord. And in a sense, that is true. So two key things. You can't, as a landlord, just increase the rent willy-nilly, and you can't evict the tenant without going through a process. And, there are several other ways in which the law gives protection to the tenant, because it sets out what you could perhaps just think of as the rules and regulations that govern the relationship between the landlord and the tenant.
All right. So Rose Bennett Cooper is our guest. Howard, if you want to make a comment, you're free to do so at any time. Do you wish to comment at this point?
Oh, no, and I endorse exactly what Rose is saying. I know that there are issues that come up from time to time with tenants, and they're asking for these sort of protection, mm-hmm. and some of it include access to property and whether or not they can live out their last month's rent, and how do they deal with the refund of
that point that you just mentioned, Howard, living out the last month's rent. That is a sore point because that is not specifically addressed in the legislation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But do you think it should, or is it being considered?
Well, here's the thing, Sir Richard. It is the act is how should I say? It's been considered for amendment from what we call it long time, and it is hoped that is something that will be addressed this year, and that specific issue of your security deposit. What is it? How can it be determined? And when and how does the landlord get to keep it and apply it against whatever, So, for example, the tenant is in the place and they mash up the place and they're leaving towards the end. At the end of this relationship, you're holding on to 2 months security deposit. What happens to that security deposit? Mm-hmm. So the law does not govern whether it can be charged, how much, and what happens to it at any given time during this tenancy relationship. But it is one of those things that there are many who believe that the act should address this so that it gives some protection to the parties.
All right. Shall I ask you, what basic obligations should all leases cover? What would you say to that?
Obligations. let's go back to rent. The lease should cover what is the rent, when is it due, how should it be paid? Do you pay it in 2 pieces per month? Do you pay it once per month? So when you look at your contract, you should see who are the parties, who is the landlord. So the landlord's brother can't turn up and say, I have the landlord pay me the rent, because you have an arrangement that specifies who the parties are, who is your landlord, who is your tenant. So the landlord turns up and sees 10 strangers living there. They are not tenants. They are not addressed in the contract. And in terms of the rent, we touched on that before, how much, when it is to be paid, and if it is not paid, what happens. The lease, how long is this lease? Is it 3 months, 6 months, a year? You should be able to look at your contract and have some amount of understanding as to the certainty of the term of the lease. And what is being rented? Where is the property? You think somebody carry and show you somewhere and it look very nice, and you think this is where I'm renting. You turn up with your furniture and the person come over and say, this is not where you're going.
Wrong place.
Next door, and you've already paid a nice big fat piece of deposit and rent, and it is not the right place. And how you could you can appreciate this one stratas. When you rent, there are shared facilities. What exactly do you have access to? What are you entitled to in terms of the shared facilities? There's a pool over there. Is everybody using it, or is it only for the persons in the apartment and not for the townhouses? Things like those. And even you rent a part of a house. Do you have rights to use the yard as well, pick from all the trees, or are you limited to only certain spaces? So for these things, you want to have them set out in certain form in the document, in your lease agreement.
Just listening to the example that you cited a while ago, I know that in instances there are legal issues that develop as a result of some of these arrangements. How can some of these legal issues be avoided?
Honesty between the parties, and sometimes making sure that at the outset of the arrangement, some of the things I just mentioned are clear and settled and understood and agreed between the landlord and the tenant, because conflict arises sometimes when there are misunderstandings, or conflict may arise when one or both of the parties are not honest. So what you want to do is to make sure that you have clarity and certainty at the outset. And even when you do, that problems can arise. And what you try to do when they do arise is to try and mediate them. Don't break out a fight and decide you're going to kick off a door and tear out a window. Those are not viable solutions to the problem.
Not at all. My goodness, it's already 9 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock. We have here as our guest inside of Real Estate Today, Rose Bennett Cooper, Chairman of the Rent Board, and of course, Howard Johnson Jr. of Howard Johnson Realty. Howard, I think we have to move on to a deal on the edge that you always are armed with in this feature. What's up this morning, sir?
Yes, sir. We're looking for a good tenant as well, with our 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house located in Portmore Country Club, 24-hour security, air conditions in the main room. We're asking $85,000 per month for that property, and more information can be had from Cordine Henry. Her number is 371-3219, or Cordine, Cordene, at asiarealtors.com is our email address. And you can also visit our social media platform to see more information about this deal on the edge.
All right. Sounds quite attractive to me. We're almost at the end of the program. Howard, I know you also are armed with a tip of the day. We heard a lot from Rose Bennett Cooper, but shall we ask you to share a tip for today with us?
Yes, I would just simply say that everyone should review their lease carefully, and with the help of a realtor or legal advice, ensure that they're getting a fair deal with all the bases that Rose mentioned earlier, that is covered in that lease agreement, so that everyone is cleared.
Shall I get a final comment from you this morning, Madam Chairman?
Just make sure that you when you enter into your landlord-tenant relationship, you try to be as clear as possible at the beginning, because it avoids problems throughout your relationship, and it certainly helps to clarify things when you're parting company at the end of the relationship.
All right. Thank you so much. Howard Johnson Realty, where can you be found? Give us the deets.
Unit number 15, Ligonier Post Mall, 115 Hope Road. You can call us at 620-1457 or send us a WhatsApp at 876-339-6282. Visit our website at hjrealtors.com.
Thank you very much, Howard Johnson, and thank you very much, Rose Bennett Cooper, for your time this morning and the information you shared. Have yourselves a wonderful day.
You too, Richard.
This has been Real Estate Today. It happens every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock and is sponsored by Howard Johnson Realty Limited.